In 2006, Columbia Pictures released a Christmas movie simply called The Holiday. The tagline was, "Can a change of a dress really change your life?" The film follows two women who are both pretty unlucky in love. Iris, played by Kate Winslet, has just had to watch the man for whom she holds unrequited feelings become engaged to another woman. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Amanda, played by Cameron Diaz, has just broken up with her lying, cheating boyfriend. Desperate for a change of scenery, Amanda hops online to plan a last-minute Christmas vacation and finds Iris's house on a home exchange website.
Home exchange, what is that?
The two women basically agree to switch lives for 2 weeks. Iris moves into Amanda's LA estate, and Amanda curls up in Iris's cozy cottage. Neither one is quite sure what she's looking for, but they're sure to know it when they find it. Okay, let's get one thing out of the way right away. This movie is long. It clocks in at just over 2 hours, and that monstrous runtime goes a long way in explaining why so many people adamantly hate it. That and the fact that over the span of those 2 hours, nothing happens. The film is dominated by long, rambling scenes of people just sitting around and talking. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be indulgent. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. With films like this, whether you like it or not depends entirely on whether or not you can stomach exactly what the film wishes to indulge in. I'm inclined to compare it to The Wolf of Wall Street, another film with a bloated runtime and a stream of consciousness-style narrative. That was a movie you either loved or absolutely despised. I couldn't stand The Wolf of Wall Street. I thought it was ultimately hollow and meaningless. An excuse to indulge in excess rather than try to be an insightful or witty look at society and economy. Yet The Holiday is one of my favorite contemporary Christmas movies. It's kind of like the most decadent, cavity-inducing dessert you can imagine. Not something you'd want to eat every day, but a nice treat once in a while. The writing is straightforward, simple, almost fairy tale in the way everything resolves. Heck, the movie is called The Holiday. It is, by its very nature, an escape.
I mean, this is what a vacation's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to vacate your life, do the unexpected.
At the same time, every scene serves a purpose. Dialogue is spent showing character and building relationships. It's not that a lot of time is wasted on meaningless exchanges, it's just that it takes longer than other films of its time to get the point across. Here's an example. When Amanda first arrives at Iris's cottage, which, by the way, was built specifically for this movie, plumbing and electricity and all, isn't that cool? Anyway, when she arrives, there's a whole 4 minutes of her just settling in and going, okay, now what? She unpacks, goes shopping, gets stressed and binges on sweets, plays with Iris's dog, and eventually ends up trying to drown out her own loneliness with some killers. This is a scene. At one point, she sits down at Iris's kitchen table and just plays with her hair. Your mileage may vary. I thought it was funny. I know I'm always going on about stories should just trim the fat and get to the point.
It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
But I like slice of lifey stuff too. I don't know if it's because this is a chick flick and I feel pandered to, but yeah, I can stomach pretty much all the fluff this movie throws at me. So the movie hinges on 4 performances. Our 2 leading ladies, Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz, and their love interests, Jack Black and Jude Law. They fit the roles they're asked to play perfectly, perhaps because, well, their parts were written specifically with them in mind. That's generally not a good thing to do in a film, and it goes a long way in explaining why the movie often feels like you're just watching Diaz, Winslet, Jude Law, and Jack Black just screwing around. There's one other important character. The late Eli Wallach plays Arthur, a film writer whom Iris befriends while staying in LA. He gives a show-stealing performance. Arthur represents a very romanticized nostalgia for the golden age of Hollywood.
So was Hollywood really as great back then as I imagine?
It was better.
In fact, I'm not entirely sure this movie wasn't secretly a love letter to old movies, considering the importance placed on old Hollywood and just how many characters are tied to film production. Arthur is an Oscar-winning writer who laments the changing times and actually gives Iris homework in the form of a list of old movies. Amanda owns a company that edits movie trailers, and both Amanda's ex-boyfriend and Jack Black's character Miles are film composers. By the way, that was a smart move having music be a central part of Black's character. In fact, one of my favorite scenes is when Miles and Iris meet up at a Blockbuster to rent more old films. Miles starts going around and singing some of the most memorable and influential film scores.
Is this a bad game?
No!
Okay.
Keep going.
Sometimes I get self-conscious about my go ra-da-da-da and scraddle-da. Are you embarrassed by this game I've started to play?
Yeah, these are the kind of indulgent scenes I'm talking about. If this kind of minutia turns you off, just stay away because the whole film is like this. By the way, did you know that Dustin Hoffman's cameo was totally unplanned and unscripted? He happened to be driving by the Blockbuster where they were filming, noticed all the cameras, and popped in to see what was going on. Being friends with director Nancy Meyers, he worked up a little improv where he played himself reacting to Jack Black's game. Huh, that's the second time this month I've talked about a holiday film featuring both Jack Black and Dustin Hoffman. Weird.
Can't go anywhere.
One more interesting thing about this scene, Miles goes around singing great film scores from iconic movies, but the only one he doesn't sing is the only one I didn't already know. Well played, movie, well played. Actually, after doing a little research, I learned that The Mission was scored by Ennio Morricone, and there are several references to him throughout the film. The main theme starts with the same chord progression as Deborah's theme from Once Upon a Time in America, and when Miles meets Iris, he's listening to the theme from Cinema Paradiso.
It's the great Ennio Morricone.
Speaking of music, the music is a big part of why I love this film so much. It was composed by Hans Zimmer, one of the biggest names in the business, and it's, well, magical. I'm not sure how to describe it except to say that this is the kind of music that speaks to the soul. It captures the imagination. It really does make you believe that anything can happen. Just listen to this theme. That's what the score for Christmas movies should sound like. Soaring and hopeful. So what is this movie's fascination with film? Well, it's hard to say. Maybe Nancy Meyers was simply indulging in a love of old movies like she did with so many things in the film. Or maybe the holiday is trying to capture the feel of old Hollywood. It's slow and steady, simple in its focus on the day-to-day lives of four ordinary people. There's a reason Amanda's working on the trailer for a teen action film in the beginning. The high energy and quick editing is meant to be a stark contrast to the pace the holiday wishes to set. Now, granted, the holiday itself is no Casablanca. But I get it. I absolutely get the nostalgia for a slower, simpler time. A time when the film wasn't the multi-billion-dollar industry it is today.
Now, a picture has to make a killing the first weekend or they're dead. This is supposed to be conducive to great work.
Aside from pure nostalgia, there is a reason for all the talk of old movies, and it's directly related to Iris's character development.
You know, every movie he's told me to see has this powerhouse woman in it.
I wonder if he's trying to tell you something with that.
And this is the lesson at the heart of the movie, the emotional journey of our two leading ladies. Both start the film lonely and lost, though at two completely different extremes. Iris is crying over a man she clearly shouldn't be wasting time on, and Amanda is so emotionally closed off she's been pushing her boyfriend away for the past year and is all too willing, almost eager to kick him out. You can see where this is going. The two women need to achieve some balance if they want emotional clarity. Iris needs to grow a backbone, and Amanda needs to get in touch with her feelings. It's a simple lesson to be sure, and I think that might be another reason why this movie turned some people off. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you see in a lot of kids' movies, right? Two characters at extremes learning to become more emotionally stable. It even falls back on the old, tired cliche that a love interest is somehow like a reward for overcoming your own emotional baggage. So despite all that, why do I love this movie so much? Well, I buy it. I'm not saying I buy it in the sense of this is how the world works. I mean, I get what this movie is going for and I'm okay with it. There are moments in this film that absolutely shine, and they're delivered with heartfelt writing and sincere performances. Maybe at the end of the day I really am just a hopeless romantic, and this is holiday fantasy fluff that manages to avoid some of the more overused romantic cliches. It's not without its problems, but it's a cozy feel-good romance. If you like sugary romantic comedies, and definitely if you're a fan of any of the four leads, give it a watch. Grab some peppermint hot chocolate, light a fire, and curl up with that special someone under the biggest, fluffiest blanket you've got. I'm eternally optimistic, wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas.
Darling, you send me. Darling, you send me. Darling, you send me. Honest you do, honest you do, honest you do. Oh, you thrill me. Darling, you thrill me.
And eventually ends up trying to drown out her own little... and eventually tries... Considering the importance placed on the glitz... and both Amanda's ex-boyfriend and Jack's black... Actually, after doing a little research, I learned that the mission was scored by Ennio Morricone. Oh, I probably butchered that. And when Miles meets Iris, he's listening to the theme from Cinema Paradiso. I probably butchered that too. Wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas. How come the only one I can do right is when I say half of it? Alright, one of those has got to be good.